Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let's see if we are live over here on these YouTube streets. Let me see. Y'all know I have to check for myself now. Make sure we live. There we go. I can hear myself. Listen, I'm gonna give y'all a couple of minutes to come on in here. Make sure I am set up and I am ready on this Sunday evening. Listen, listen, get into this ponytail, y'all. This is a new ponytail that I took out the pack today, okay? I didn't even know I had it, okay? All I know is I was preparing myself to go to church. I looked up and I was like, girl, where you get this pony? So I put it on, okay? I put it on. I put it on, okay? So I can just, you know what? There we go. Just drawstring it on, honey. And I put this little braid up here, and we are having a good old time. Listen, welcome. Listen, I missed y'all. I did. I hope I don't have no throat issues today. I was watching a girl the other day on YouTube, and she said that sometimes because of what's going on with her, sometimes she find herself getting a bit of her voice losing. Hey, Gwen, honey, how you doing? Hey, honey, I am so grateful for you, Gwen. I really am. I am so grateful for you. Right? You show up and you always engage, and I am so grateful for you. And I often hear content creators talk about people who have been there with them from the beginning. And I'm looking and I'm like, you know what? Gwen is that person for me. And so I just want you to know I appreciate you. I really do. I appreciate you and thank you. Thank you very much. And so listen, y'all, listen, I have missed y'all. Okay. It's been, listen, looking at my calendar, I think it's been like almost 3 weeks since I've been live up on the hood parenting, right? What has happened since then? We've had the 4th of July. We've entered a new month. We've had the 4th of July. What has happened? I'm sure the president did something crazy. Okay. We didn't have some things going on in the news. We didn't had all kind of things that happened since I have last went live. And since then, I was in my hometown and we celebrated birthdays. We celebrated the 4th of July. I went to the R&B concert of the year, right? And if you have not seen that video, make sure you go check it out. And listen, it took me a long time to upload that video, okay? It did. It took me a long time to upload that video, okay? Because listen, I was trying to let y'all hear some of the music, right? Instead of the music I pay for or listen to me talk. But YouTube is like, girl, no, you can't do that. Now you know Chris Brown and Usher is too rich and famous for you to be trying to put their doggone videos on there. Okay, that's what they said. Okay, it's like, you know what, they too rich and famous. So girl, you're gonna have to do something. So I had to fast forward. I had to talk over. I had to do something so that y'all can try to get some of what I seen. I mean, because for the price of my tickets, I feel I should share this experience with somebody. Okay, that's how I feel. You know, I never thought I'd see myself. I can tell you this. Honestly, Chris Brown and Usher concert was not on my bingo card for 2026. Okay. However, going to more concerts and getting out and going to more local events is on my 2026 bingo card. And so I guess that kind of falls into that category, but I didn't know because I'm not really a Usher and Chris Brown fan. I mean, I listen to music, but I'm not one of the people but the concert I'm going to in a couple of weeks, yeah. And another thing, y'all, this week I gotta go. They talking about pulling one of my teeth out, and I gotta pray about this. I still got 3 more days to pray about this. Okay, they've been calling me, they've been texting me to confirm whether or not I'm gonna pull it out. Okay, now I will say I made a reel about it. I did all the things, and I might be a little shallow, but I feel that people will be able to see that tooth being missing. And then they telling me it's gonna be 6 months before I get another one. Now I've been canceled this appointment. I don't know how many times I have. I've canceled this appointment numerous amount of times while I went on the game show, while I doggone did a podcast, flew to California, while I did some other stuff. I had to take some photos, I had to send in some videos. It's a lot that didn't happen in these 3 years. Okay. So because of that, I was putting off this tooth. They was like, girl, you can't put it off no more. You better get on up in here. And so I put it on. I was like, what happens if I don't take care of a dead tooth? Okay. And people are saying that, you better get it taken care of. And listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm one of them people that, if nothing else, Uncle Sam spent a lot of money on my teeth. Okay, I mean, I can tell you the things I do have had done, but I will be here a long time. But in my 25 years of military service, I can guarantee they probably spent at least $5,000 per year on my teeth because I made sure I got everything done. I made sure. I got everything done. Okay. Okay. So listen, this is why we are here today. While I was sitting here trying to figure out, because of course I always have 50 million ideas about what Hood Parenting Live on Sundays at 6 p.m., what the topics will be. Now, in a perfect world, I would go ahead and have a chart, and I would talk about those things, and I would stay in order, and I would have a calendar so that way people can know what it is that we're talking about that day. But then I said, you know what? If I did that to the way, um, I know, Gwen, I know it will become infected, and it's infected already, but it's dead. I've had several root canals on it, and so they saying it's I don't feel it, so it's more aesthetic for the look more than anything else. Like, I need my tooth, so they're telling me it's gonna take 6 months to a year before I get a new one. They won't even put a temporary one in there until the end. I'm just like, what the heck, okay? But but what I was saying is, when it comes to, this space and the things that I'm doing and things like that, it's one of those things where I look at, I was thinking about, just what I'm doing here and everything. I think let me see, what are we talking about? Let me see, what was we doing? So look, so that's how we got here. We're talking about me being military. So when I think about, like I said, what we do here, what I talk about here on Hood Parenting Live, I often think about doing a calendar, but I already know if I do a calendar, it will not be authentic, because a lot of what I talk about, I would say majority of what I talk about is things that I've either encountered that week through my own experiences. Like, I've had these encounters, or people have, like, more than one person has said to me or talked to me about certain things. And so I then know that it's a message that I need to say. And so sometimes I'm able to really, really deliver the message. And then sometimes, because of the way my brain is, I look back at some of my lives, and it's like, did I get the message? Was I clear? And so I want to all, just know that I want to make sure that if there's anything that I'm not clear about, make sure you go ahead and let me know down below, because I want to make sure that this channel is about things that you didn't know you needed to know. When we talk about healing generational trauma and healing generational things and wounds, and taking those things that we've been through and using them as our superpower, because now we know our left and our right. Right. And so now that I'm thinking about it, listen, I forgot. If this is your first time here, hello and welcome to Hood Parents Alive. I am your host, Yasheka, affectionately known as the Fairy Godmother. And this is where we come to take our things that we've been through and turn them into legacies, turn them into triumphs, turn into stories. Because again, hood parenting, I'm raised in the hood, honey, but I got the military behind me. I got so many other things behind me, but I know that being in this foundation is the things that help prepare me for this world. Because honey, when I tell you, I don't take no mess from nobody. Now, I'm not saying I'm superwoman or anything like that, but I walk through this world alone. And so because I walk through this world alone as an unmarried woman, I've been divorced twice, I know that I have to set a certain tone and presence for myself and for my daughter, because nobody is coming to save us. Listen, I've been trying to find her daddy since I got custody of her in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm not just gonna try to tell you, I've been trying to find her daddy. I promised her my other two kids had a daddy. I said, well, girl, I'm gonna get your daddy too. She'll be 13. She still ain't got no daddy. So I didn't do something right. Either I didn't do something right, or by the time it got to her, I was a little bit more particular about who, because I don't know. I don't know. Or better yet, somebody might was like, I ain't about to be her dad. I don't know. I don't know. And I just wanted a father figure. Not really but a father figure, but I never did. But what I do know is that how I got here was, the more and more I see my life, the more and more I'm looking at the things that's going on, and the more I encounter people. It's this concept that people ask me often about my husband. They ask me often about my life and about the men in my life. And it's one of those things I have a hard time explaining that. I'm like, my husband, well, honey, I haven't had one of those in a long time, you know. But they have this misconception that because I live a certain way or I carry myself a certain way or I present myself a certain way, that there must be a husband or some man that is making sure that I'm good, because clearly a woman isn't supposed to look any different than what she's been through. Excuse me. And so I thought about that. I said, well, dang, you mean tell me, give me 1 second. Y'all know every time I come in here, I have to cough. But you mean to tell me, in order for me to be a woman that that takes care of myself, that pour into myself, it has to be. And here's the thing, I love that for me. I love the fact that people see me and that's what they believe. But I don't want people to feel that that's the only way in order for, when I think about my daughter, right? And this is what this is about. And I know, again, sometimes I'm scatterbrained. When I think about my daughter's 12. It's like one of those things where how do I teach her? Because again, the standards that I have for her in terms of life, or the things that I teach her in terms of life, is going to be different than the way I teach my sons. Because boys' responsibilities or boys' purposes in this world is a little different. I'm not talking about the human concept. I'm talking about the things that we're meant to do versus the things that men are to do, right? And so I look at her and I say, well, do she understands that, are there fairy tales? And that's the question I had to ask myself. Are there fairy tales? Like, in order for us to live a life where we look like, does it have to be a fairy tale? And if so, what does a fairy tale look like? Because see, when I was a kid, which is different than her childhood, I grew up with Cinderella. I grew up with, all of the different fairy tales. Now, I'm not saying that those fairy tales don't still exist, but what I am saying is that kids don't too much look at them the way that they did, because when we were kids, that's all we had was fairy tales. Now they can see other people, like real people from different parts of the world, and say, okay, I want this, or I don't want that, or I want my life like this, or I don't want my life like that. And so it makes them develop this idea about what life is supposed to look like. And so it makes me think about, when we think about women and women like myself who are at that age where I have come from two divorces. I have came from, childhood trauma. I have came from, obstacles in my life, the corporate America, being in the military, overcoming those things. But yet I still stand here, not because I didn't endure pain or obstacles, or I didn't endure, that whole idea of what I thought my life was supposed to look like, because I went through all those things. There was some times where I didn't think I was going to get back up. But what I do know is that I got to the other side of those things, and I did it because I continued to pour into myself. That's how I got here, despite or in spite, however you want to call it, of what was going on around me, or what I couldn't achieve, or what I couldn't change. I continued to pour into myself. And so that always looked different for me, depending on what I was going through at that time. Like, I remember, excuse me, when I was going through my divorces, my second divorce, for me, I recall that time where my sons and I, because we were stationed in California, and I recall a time where my sons, we wanted to get out. So we went to Vegas, because Vegas is only 2.5 hours from us. And so I got a lot of comps from Vegas. And so I took my boys to Vegas, and I remember us being at the hotel, and it was the MGM. And the reason why I remember it was the MGM because they have the lions and stuff, and all that, even at the pool. And so we're sitting there, and I'm looking at all these grand lions, and I'm just sitting there. My boys are in the pool playing. And it was a nice sunny day on a Saturday. And I'm sitting there and I'm typing a paper for college that was due that next day by Sunday. And it was like a 20-some page paper that I was doing for my master's degree. And so it was one of those things where I was trying to make sure that I continued to do this while I was doing this. And this is what I mean by that. It was one of those things where for me to keep going over here, because I had goals, despite of the fact that I'm going through this divorce. I knew that I had goals, that I knew that I had to be stronger than what I was going through. Because things will knock us down every single day. One thing I know about life is that it doesn't come at you on a calendar, right? It does not come at you on a calendar. It doesn't schedule itself. Like things that happen in your life, obstacles and things like that, it doesn't schedule themselves. You know how you schedule your doctor's appointments? Like you say, okay, well, I'm going to go annually around my birthday to get myself checked out, right? That's not how problems come. Problems come, they can come one on top of the other. They can come one after the other. And so what do? And a lot of times it's not we don't we're not a lot of times it's not who we are while we're going through that. It's like the person that we are coming on the outside or the other side of that. It's like that's how character is built, right? That's how character is built. And so when I thought about this and I think about people say to me, you must have a husband or you must have this, what I hear them say to me is, you don't look like you've been through what you've been through. And I say, well, thank you. I appreciate that because that's what I hear. Right. And I need my daughter to know, and everybody else and all the women to know that listen to this and come to me and listen to this on this here YouTube or wherever you may find me. One thing I know about this life is whether you are married, whether you are single, whether you are in a situationship, in whatever the situation is, you have to always pour into yourself. So when you ask the questions about fairy tales, yes, fairy tales are do come true. I believe in fairy tales, but what I do know is that I give myself the fairy tale. And I believe that a fairy tale is just something that our minds create. It's like a goal, it's like a dream. In my mind, a fairy tale is like a dream. It's like me telling myself that these things are possible. I don't care what no one say. So when I think about a fairy tale, that's what I think about. So with the life that I give myself, the peace that I give myself, yes, it's a fairy tale. And I'm sorry that some people look at it and think that it's given to me by a man. I wish, I wish that I can be a damsel in distress. And so my message to young girls all the time and to the takeaway is this, as simple as this. Sometimes we have this idea about what life is supposed to look like. And in my mind, I was going to be a married woman with 6 boys. Okay. I was going to be a married woman with 6 boys. In fact, that was 2 reasons why I got married at 18 the first time. Two of my number one reasons, 2 of my reasons, top 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted children. And number two, I did not want to have children out of wedlock, right? I wanted that fairy tale life that I grew up on, the Cinderella story and all of that. I wanted that, that I was going to be saved. I wanted that husband. I wanted to be that woman that was at home, and I still wanted to be strong now, but I don't know what it looked like. I still wanted to work, but I also wanted to be able to take care of my family and do these things. I don't know what I wanted, but what I did know is that I wanted the family concept. That's what I did know. But what I had to realize is that when in terms of the fairy tale, I had to understand that the fairy tale was not going to look the way I thought it was going to look. And so as I talked to my daughter and as I raised my daughter, again, different than the way I raised my sons, these are the things that I think about, right? Because see, I still believe in love and I still believe that all of those things is possible. But what I do know is that if you're doing those things or you're creating this fairy tale life and it's not with the right person, then none of that will matter. None of that will matter. It will look picture perfect. You can make it look picture perfect, but down in the root of it, is it really? Because the peace that I have in my life today, I can honestly say I didn't have it in my 20s and my 30s. Now, I also know that when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you're going through different things in your life. Like you're still becoming, you're still trying to understand who you are. You're still trying to figure out your goals. You're still trying to figure out who you want to be in this world or what you want to be in this world. Like a lot of times that's what we're still doing. We're trying to figure out how do we get to that bag, as the kids say. How do we get to that goal or those things that we set up for ourselves or for our children or for whatever, right? How do we take care of ourselves and take care of our kids? And oh yeah, by the way, pull some of our parents along with us so we don't leave them behind. And so when you're in your 20s and your 30s and you're trying to figure all these things out, yes, it's a little bit different when you're trying to build a relationship. It is. It's a little different. But what I do know is that sometimes that fairy tale, you have to adjust just like everything else. So you decide what that fairy tale looks like, right? Because here's the thing, your fairy tale might be different than mine. See, my fairy tale looks like my house being peaceful, me not having to worry, me knowing that I got a place to call home, me knowing that my children and I are safe. If you had to ask me in my teens what a fairy tale looked like, I would have told you it looked like 2.5 kids and a picket white fence and a dog, right? And my husband with this, and then on Sundays we have Sunday dinner, and then I cook all the other days, and then I'm cooking in my pretty dresses, and that's what it would look like if you had to ask me in my early childhood years. But of course, as I get older, it looks different, right? Because for me, the day that I decided that I needed to be peace, that I needed peace to be within me, meaning that it was always here, I had to bring it out, is when I said, you know what, I got to stop all the other madness. And so for me, I started to build my fairy tale, and it looked different than what I thought it was going to look like. And you have to be okay with that, right? The other part, we think about all the things. When I talk about my divorces, when I talk about my military time, when I talk about the different types of dynamics of children that I raised, like I have personally been a mother, a stepmother, adopted mother, about custodial parent, just different things, right? A bonus mom, a custodial, just different things, right? I've come from different dynamics of parenthood, okay, that I do know. But what I've learned is that no matter what I did in terms of creating this ideal of myself, it didn't follow a script. I never knew that I would sit here as a 53-year-old woman, as a single woman, right? And when I say single, not just from not being in a relationship, but also being a single parent. If you had to ask me when I was younger, would I be here? I would say no. I would have had my kids with the husband, and then we would have went on about our business. We would have had that picket white fence. We would have went to send them on to college, and then they would have had our grandkids, and then he and I would sit at home while they come visit us, and we'll watch them play in the yard while we rocking our rocking chairs. That's the way my life would have been, right? But we know that it doesn't. It's not a script. Life doesn't follow a script. And so, because we know that life doesn't follow a script, my advice to my daughter and to anybody else is I would tell you, very simple, is that you need to build a life that does not depend on a fairy tale. And what I mean by that is put yourself in a position where you are stable. You are financially stable with or without someone. And I don't mean that to say, well, um, don't plan or plan your life to fit. No, because life happens. Like I said, my fairy tale was simple. I was going to be like my grandmother. Now, here's the thing. I got two grandmothers. One of my grandmothers, my grandfather died long before she got to that age or he could retire. So she had 6 children. She was forced to go out there and figure it out. I'm sure that was something that she didn't anticipate. Nobody anticipates that, right? And then in those time frames, minorities, we didn't know anything about insurance and insurance policies. And if we did back then, it wasn't no more than about $2,000-3,000 because that was a lot of money to them. So that didn't last very long when you are a mother with 6 kids. So there she was. And then my other grandmother, she had altogether between her and my grandfather, there were 12 kids. So she could not work. So she had to be in a position where she depended on him. 2 different mothers, 2 different grandmothers, 2 different situations, right? And so for them, their life was a fairy tale. I have pictures of my grandmother. They lived their lives. They were both Scorpios. I love that for them. Both my grandmothers were Scorpios. May they both rest in peace. And for them, they both desired that life that their mothers told them. Get a husband, have kids, be a stay-at-home mom. And of course, we wasn't calling it back then because back then mothers didn't have no children but to stay at home. But I know that for me, that wasn't going to be my life. I knew very on that that wasn't going to be my life. I watched my mother struggle. My mother was on welfare most of up until I was about 12 or 13 years of age. By the time I left for the military at 18, my mother was only making $1 more than me at her job. She was making 650. I was making 550. I was only 17, 18 years old. She was a grown woman making 650. She couldn't take care of me. She couldn't save me. And so that's how I knew that I was going to have to save myself. And so when I say are fairy tales real? Yeah, they are. They are real. But it's the one that you build for yourself. But you have to build your life where your fairy tale does not depend on someone else, or your fairy tale is dependent on if these things happen. You have to do it for yourself. I wish it was that simple. I wish it was that simple where I could just sit back and say, you know what, I'm just gonna let this thing play out. I'm gonna use my but that's not how it is. And so, like I said, this all came about when I'm listening to people talk to me about my benefits or where I'm at in this life. I've heard people say things. There's so many conversations that I've had with people over these last couple of weeks about certain concepts and certain ideologies that people have regarding women my age. Right? Listen, I get it. I get it. I get it. I wish that life was different. I wish that I could still be married to one man and live this fairy tale that I dreamed of as a young girl. Because remember, I am a Gen Xer. So for us, our dreams, our fairy tales look different than today. Like I think some people, like one of my bonus daughters was telling me, she was like, nobody wants to get married anymore. I don't know if that's true or not. I can't relate. I can't relate. But she's telling me that her generation don't really care to be married. I don't know. Okay, but what I do know is when I was a young girl, that was part of what we desired. But I'm here to tell you, you're going to have to create that for yourself. And sometimes people won't get it. It's hard for people to understand because they have this misconception about what they think it's supposed to look like. I wish I had somebody come in here and help pay this mortgage for me. I'm not even going to lie. And for the girls who are able to live that life, listen, honey, you done something right. You done something right. And I love that for you. Right. And when I say something right, who wants to work hard? Who wants to work hard? I know I don't. I know I don't. Listen, I am the captain save them for a few people, for a lot of people. Right. I don't have the luxury to sit back and just say, okay, I'm just gonna just dwell in my fruits and, or should I say relax in my fruits and my labor. No, I have to keep going because a lot of people depend on me. I'm the captain of the ship. And as the captain of the ship, if I go down, the whole ship go down. And so when we talk to people about, fairy tales, I believe fairy tales are real. But I believe those fairy tales are the ones that you create for yourself. And if you are if you consider to be blessed, I don't know, to find that special someone that can bring you those things and help you achieve those things, and you can live that what we call soft life without you providing it for yourself, then baby, listen, I am here for it. And if that's you, let me know down below, honey. Let me know how you got there. Listen, give us some doggone pointers because apparently I didn't do something right in life. Depending on how you look at it, honey. I retired 10 years ago, but I had to do the work to get here. But so it depends on how you look at it. And so listen, when I think about my daughter and my future great granddaughters, because I probably won't see them because I don't even have grandkids at this age. And so I probably will not see my great great granddaughters or my great great grandsons. So when I think about them, that's what I want them to know. That's what I want them to know. The takeaway from this video is simple. The life you want, you create for yourself. Now, if you are blessed to find that person that was created for you and y'all can create that life together, then listen, I love that for you. But as your great 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 grandmother or your fairy godmother, depending on when you watching this video or who's watching this video, I'm telling you, as a 53-year-old woman, have your own, create your own. I don't want my happiness and the way I carry myself and the way I conduct myself and the way my skin glows to be only if I have somebody else to provide that life for me. I don't want to walk around. That life right there is a life of stress. That's what that is. That's not, to me, that's not a life of comfortability. That's a life of stress. because now I have to, because in my mind, that means that I have to always be doing what that person wants me to do, which is that what you want to do? Hey, cool with you. But for me, I'm here to tell you that that fairy tale, it looks different for everybody. And so have your own, establish your own, so that way you don't have to ever worry about anybody taking it from you. And yes, you can have the glow, you can have all of the things because you provided for yourself. And it's just that simple. And because of that, I am able to sleep good at night. In fact, I snore when I sleep, honey. I sleep so good at night because I ain't got to worry about nobody coming to tell me to get up out their house. I ain't got to worry about nobody coming to tell me that I got to go or they going to pull it for it. Listen, I ain't got to worry about none of that. All right. So do fairy tales come true? Yes. You create them for your own. And that way you know you're good. So listen, I don't know who this video is for, but I know it's for somebody. All right. And so listen, I will talk to you guys in the next video, and make sure y'all go and check out all my vlogs. Y'all know I've been vlogging until I monetize. Listen, I got about, as of today, I'm 50 people less. I need at least 50 more people before I can be considered for monetization, but I also need watch hours. So make sure you go and watch my videos in their entirety. Leave a comment, subscribe, buy you some real estate here in my neighborhood, because again, this is hood parenting. Subscribe, turn your notifications so when I post a video or anything, you will be the first to know. And another thing, I'm going to go live on this July the 17th. I don't know what time yet, but keep it on the lookout because that is a special day, July the 17th, which is off schedule, but I'm going to go live July the 17th, and look out for your lookout, or should I say, turn your notifications so when I let you know what time I'll do it, you'll know. All right, you guys, time to go. All right, catch you guys in the next video. Bye. Bye, Gwen.